Hello and welcome to my world. Today we're going to focus on picking the piano that's right for you. If you already have a piano in your house, this can still be a useful video for you because you might want to upgrade at some point. So today we're going to cover the pros and cons of acoustic pianos and electric keyboards. First, let's start with the acoustic. I grew up playing an acoustic piano and I absolutely loved it. It's such a beautiful experience, the sound is super rich, and it's just a really lovely thing to have around. There's almost this spirit to the acoustic piano that is just so present and deep. However, a couple things for you to keep in mind with an acoustic piano is you can't keep it on an outside facing wall. So if you have a wall to the outside, it will cause harm to the acoustic piano. It can cause warping, it can cause it to get out of tune a lot faster. So you just want to make sure that your acoustic piano is on an inside wall. Also with acoustic pianos, like any acoustic instrument, requires a little bit more maintenance. For instance, you need to keep it tuned regularly, and you want to keep it in a relatively temperate environment. So you don't want it too hot or too cold, or that it's changing temperatures all the time, and you want to keep it relatively moist. This is for any acoustic instrument. If you play the fiddle, you have to keep this little hydrating vessel or vial inside of your case. Keeping your room hydrated will prevent cracking and shrinking with the wood. The ideal humidity range for piano is around 40 to 50% humidity. Below 30% it gets too dry, the wood shrinks, it cracks or warps, and above 60% it's too humid, and so it can feel kind of like sluggish in the keys. You can maintain the humidity a couple ways. You can get a humidifier, you can keep your piano away from heaters and air vents, and also sometimes pianos come with like a built-in humidifier. One of the challenging things with an acoustic piano is the weight can be quite a bit, and so if you want to gig, an acoustic piano might not be so much for you. Unless you're Oscar Peterson, bringing an acoustic piano to every one of your events might be a bit of a hassle. So I really like the electric keyboard for that. Another one of the cons of having an acoustic piano is it can cause some challenges with recording. So if you're recording a song and you play a wrong note, or a note that you want to change later, it's pretty much impossible to actually change it later unless you use autotune, and it would sound really strange. So the cool thing about the acoustic piano is it does give a very honest expression, and if you do end up recording on an acoustic piano, people will say, okay, we know for a fact that this is a true recording, there's no alterations, and if you're going for that very, very honest expression. However, sometimes I have the perfect take and I just need to change one note, so I do personally like working with the electric keyboard so I can have that freedom. One of the really nice things about the acoustic piano is if the power goes out, you can still play the piano in your house. If you are picking an acoustic piano, there are a couple things that I want to let you know. So there's an upright piano, which is essentially a straight up and down one, your baby grand and your grand. Now, the sound between all three of them is a little different. When you work with your upright, the inside of it is different than the inside of a baby grand and a grand piano. It doesn't change how you play the piano, but it does change the richness of the sound. One really great thing about upright pianos or apartment pianos is they're usually for free. People are always getting rid of them because their grandmother gave it to them and they never played it, or no one in the house plays it, so they're often giving them away for free. So now let's waft over to the electric keyboard. I personally really love working with an electric keyboard because I'm a music producer, I record my own songs, and I bring it around for gigging. So having an electric keyboard is way more feasible and just way more reasonable for the lifestyle that I have with my music. When you're picking your electric keyboard, there's a couple things that you want to keep in mind. So number one, you want to make sure that your electric keyboard is touch sensitive. That means that it can play dynamics or louds and softs. If it's not touch sensitive, it is pretty boring because you can't really put any emotion into it because it all sounds the same volume. So it's really hard to get that like emotion and that humanity to the playing. Another thing that you really want to make sure that you get is weighted keys. So weighted keys make it seem a little bit more like an acoustic piano when you're playing. So when you change over to an acoustic piano, it's not so hard of a transition. And weighted keys also help it feel like you're not playing butter, right? So sometimes when you play an electric guitar, you might notice that your fingers just slide all over the place, but when you play an acoustic guitar, you have to press much harder. And so the weighted keys really help you feel like you're actually playing the piano. It also helps with those dynamics as well. Now, a transpose button is something that is not necessary, but most keyboards have. And the reason why I like the transpose button is if I'm learning a song in a key that maybe is a little challenging for me, what I can do is I can put it in an easier key, and then I press the transpose button, which changes the note tone tones, and so it brings it higher or lower based on which direction I press the buttons. So I could play something in a very simple key like C major, and then just press a transpose button and be playing something in E flat major. So having the transpose button is helpful. However, I would definitely suggest that you do learn how to play songs in their original keys, because not every piano will have a transpose button. So it's nice to be able to have that freedom to play different pianos and not have to be like, oh no, I have to transpose on the fly. Another important thing for you to remember if you're buying an electric keyboard is they're essentially computers, so they depreciate in value. So make sure that you don't pay full price if you're buying secondhand. A couple places that are secondhand that are really great to shop are Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, and Reverb. Also, local music stores have really fantastic rental programs or rent-to-own programs where you don't have to buy it all at once, and it's very accessibly priced. My favorite brands of electric keyboards are the Yamaha and the Roland. And generally, if you're wanting a full keyboard, it's an 88 key keyboard. Now, if you have a smaller keyboard, that's totally fine. If you're really focused more on producing rather than performing, having fewer keys is fine. But if you want to get the full one to have the full range, 88 keys is what you're going to want to go with. If you're more interested in learning the keyboard so that you can improve your recording and production skills, the Akai keyboard is really fantastic, and you don't need a full 88 key. But the Akai keyboard is really good for EDM and hip-hop production because it has lots of synths and drum pads. If you have no budget for piano right now, there's other options that you can look into. For instance, universities often have open practice halls where you can tap in when students aren't playing. You can also go to your local library. It might have a piano, and sometimes cafes or streets have pianos that they allow people to play. At the end of the day, I don't want you to get so stressed about picking the right piano that you don't start at all. The important thing is that you start your journey and then you can go from there. I just want to give you these tips so that you don't spend a whole bunch of money on something that you might not want to use later. Fun little anecdote that I want to share with you about one of my favorite singer-songwriters, Aurora, is that she actually learned to play the piano on this dinky little keyboard that she had in her attic as a child. It was this little piano, and in order to use it, she had to hold the power button down with one hand, and so she could only play with the other hand. But if that dinky little piano was enough for her to get into her songwriting and write really incredible songs, it's enough for you. That limitation helped her inform her style, and so can yours. Also, don't forget to check out my free ebook, Unlocking the Piano for Creative Freedom. If you like the sound of the piano in the background of this video, that's actually me using all the techniques that I teach in this book. Happy piano playing!